Right. I always love to get charged up with that starting video that we often play. So, very warm welcome to 2025. Happy New Year. I hope you all had a great start of your year. For those of you who are in LA, I do want to say, it's really sad to hear all the stories and all everything that's happening over there. I hope you're keeping safe. I hope your friends and family are safe. And please take care. All right. This is the Employee Center Academy. It's a live on ServiceNow series. My name is Pooja Gupta. I am one of your hosts for the session today. I lead the outbound product team within a team called Unified Employee Experiences at ServiceNow. And this is the team that builds the front end experiences for everything that an employee would need and cater to. Now, if you are coming to the Employee Center Academy for the first time, a warm welcome, but also I just want to give you a little bit more context. The Academy series is actually a set of monthly events that is hosted by the product team to provide feature deep dives, technical guidance, and anything that you will probably have as a blocker for deploying or getting to value with our Employee Center and Employee Center Pro products. You can, all the sessions are recorded, so you can access the past sessions on community, and I'll share the link for that shortly on chat. All of these sessions um, are also available on YouTube. Sorry, just give me a second. There you go. You should see it on chat now. So yeah, so all of these session recordings are also available on YouTube. When you go on community, you will actually also see the presentation material. So what I request you for this session is that please keep your pens down and make use of this session, ask your questions. We do have a Q&A panel set up, and we have a set of panelists who can answer all your questions. So please make use of that Q&A panel for asking your questions. Use the chat for just interacting with each other. And I see people had already started posting their warm welcomes and talking about where they are joining from. So you should all be able to now post to everyone. So please use the chat for just interacting with the other folks on the call today. We have a really interesting topic. It's a little different from many of the other topics that you may be accustomed with Academy. So we're not doing a feature overview or like a feature deep dive this time. We are going to focus on a different topic, which I know many of you are interested in and are in a journey towards. So we're going to talk about how you could deliver global business services or shared services via Employee Center. And I have a very special guest to help me with this presentation. This is Scott. Scott, you want to just give your introduction and say hi to the group?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Scott Northern. I'm an enterprise architect that is solely focused on global business services, shared services, enterprise service management, that whole suite of initiatives that enterprises take on. I typically work with our largest accounts that span the entire world. I've been in this position for about a year. I've been ServiceNow for about 4 years. And before I joined ServiceNow, I sat where you guys sit. I was a customer. I served as a sysadmin for an educational testing company based out of Iowa City, Iowa. So go Hawkeyes. And I look forward to telling you all about global business services today and how Employee Center Pro can really help.
Awesome. Super excited to hear from you, Scott. So here's the agenda, folks. We will first have a deep dive of what is global business services, help you get oriented around, how where your organization may be in their journey and the value props and everything. Then we will do a quick demo of how we in ServiceNow are actually implementing GBS using Employee Center Pro. And then we will do a quick demo of out-of-box Employee Center Pro and how that is positioned for GBS as well. So with that, I hope you're all excited. Please keep your questions flowing on the Q&A panel, and we will get started. And Scott, I will hand it over to you to just take the screen share and give us a walkthrough.
Sounds good. Let me go ahead and so right now you should be seeing a woman holding a very large purse.
Yes, we do.
All right. Very similar to Elsbeth, one of my favorite shows. I love that show. Anyway, so as I said earlier, my name is Scott Northern, Enterprise Architect. Today, I'm going to walk you through how Employee Center Pro can be leveraged within your organization as part of a GBS or shared services initiative. Before we dive into the details on how that is accomplished, we're going to lay the groundwork on what GBS is. What is Global Business Services? We're going to look at how it's evolved through the years and the various maturity levels that organizations go through. And we're going to take a look at what's critical to organizations that are running GBS or shared services at the various maturity levels. And then, of course, how Employee Center Pro can really help drive and enable that type of initiative. So you may have heard of GBS for Global Business Services or GSS for Global Shared Services, GES for Global Enterprise Services, Global Enablement Solutions, an acronym by any other name. And actually, don't laugh. There's also IBS, which is Internal Business Services or Intelligent Business Services. The point is, regardless of the name, the concepts that are used and the benefits that organizations will see by leveraging the standardization, the digitization, the optimization, and many other words that end in zation are just undeniable. And so we'll go through these shortly. Shared services starts off by focusing on that that single function. We start with a very fragmented view of an organization as we gradually move through these maturity levels. Global business services companies are companies which are organized and have a more global perspective. They focus on creating customer-centric, digitized end-to-end process flows across functions and geographies. So it's not just looking at your city or your state or your country, it's across the entire enterprise. Now, obviously, if you only have a company that's based in the US or only based in France or Mexico, then that is your world, that is your globe. And the concepts are still the same. It's still about that standardization and that end-to-end flow. This has been around for years. And what we're focusing on today is slightly different. There's definitely more of a focus on innovation in today's global business services and shared services model. That's just become part of the DNA. But at the same time, the need to remain very lean and very agile, cost competitive and efficient. Those are all words that all of our organizations, regardless of the size or where you are in a shared services journey, those are all words that we hear about. And those are all areas of focus for GBS and for shared services. Now, as you look from left to right, we take a look once we get to the global business services part, and you see those green lines. Well, what that is establishing is that this hire to retire process or hire to retire journey, for example, is going to span across the entire enterprise, as opposed to what we see earlier in the maturation process, where we might be siloed by country or region or department. So hire to retire, looking from the before when an employee is applying for a position all the way through past when they leave the company and even when they become an alumni, and you might be looking to stay engaged with them. Procure to pay is another very big process journey that organizations take. Between procure to pay and financial services, those are the two most engaged processes and journeys that global business services and other shared services take on. And it makes sense, right? Anything having to do with buying or selling something, you're going to want to have it standardized. You're going to want to take away those manual pieces and those touch points. And then corporate services, you know, simply put, we couldn't make the slide big enough to cover all the different use cases that GBS can tackle. So we just kind of lumped them into that corporate services. And then when we get to the very far right and we're looking at the IBS, the intelligent business services, that is becoming more and more a reality as we move into, and it's the first time I'm going to drop the buzziest of all buzzwords, AI. As we move towards AI, Gen AI, and this year, the biggest topic is going to be agentic AI. Intelligent business services are going to become more of a reality for companies in which they are able to open up their ecosystem of shared services to more of their partners and more of their customers so that those users can take advantage of what that organization has already standardized and digitized. The most important part of all of this, and as someone who's been in technology since the late 90s, transformations are not just technology. The technology arguably is the easiest part. GBS, shared services, can become a very large program, and that brings in corporate culture change. It brings in some restructuring of how those departments are going to roll up to potentially a global head of those departments or of those journeys. You're going to have impacts on teams, processes, tools. There's a whole suite of change management decisions and strategies that need to be a part of any type of GBS initiative. So what's important with GBS? We see these 4 areas as themes which are common across all organizations, which are utilizing some kind of GBS, enterprise service management or shared services model. These are the most universal. So starting in the top left, hey, look, it's today's topic. We need a unified experience that's going to provide that one-stop shop or that single pane of glass for your employees to be able to find those goods and services and information they need to be successful in their day-to-day work. Secondly, there needs to be some way of quickly developing new applications, new programs, new processes that are going to meet that rapidly changing business world that we are all a part of, whether or not that is challenges to the supply chain that you need to address, changes in your ERP systems, new acquisitions, new mergers, different ways of doing business. Third, it isn't just enough to have a lot of data. The data needs to be meaningful. The data needs to be aggregated and presented in a way that you're going to be able to see those insights and those recommendations to provide actions that you can take. And then finally, all of the above lead into a culture of continuous improvement, that desire to make the organization become better. I was very fortunate in my career to spend some time with GE, specifically GE Commercial Finance, as a black belt in that organization. And that is where I began my love for continuous improvement. And I think if you're in technology, you can't ignore the need to continuously improve your products and services, because if you're not, your competition is. How do we tackle this? Well, I mean, obviously you're on a ServiceNow call, so I'm going to say ServiceNow. Enter ServiceNow stage left. And the sweet spot for ServiceNow is that digitization in the standardization of workflows across your enterprise. You know, regardless of how many teams work flows between or how many different people touch that piece of work, ServiceNow is there to orchestrate that end-to-end process. And that orchestration can span workflows through the analytics and process mining, through the experience level. And Employee Center Pro is critical in providing that beautiful experience layer to your employees, because experiences matter. I mean, whether or not those experiences are in your personal life or your work life, think about it. If you have a good or a bad experience, that's something you share with friends and family. You know, if you have a bad experience at a restaurant, you're going to share that with 7 different people. If you have a good experience at a restaurant, you might share that with one or two. Well, the same holds true with the way your employees interact with the technology that your company utilizes. And employees are often the last people to be thought of by an organization when they're considering how are we going to improve user experience. And once again, if you've been on IT, you know IT is the redheaded stepchild when it comes to experience. We are so used to just using any Visual Basic tool circa 1987 just because it works and we don't need to fix it. But that really decreases the engagement and the efficiency. And that's where ServiceNow comes in. ServiceNow can also provide that powerful capability of knowledge management. And as a former sysadmin, I know how hard it is to create and maintain and govern that knowledge base. But within a GBS organization or a shared services organization, when you have a robust knowledge base combined with Employee Center Pro, that enhances the self-service capabilities of an employee and also the repeatability of the processes within your organizations, both of which are exposed on Employee Center Pro for that greater impact. And part of that experience layer that ServiceNow provides to your employees is also in the agent workspaces, which we won't talk about much today, but that is going to provide another consolidated view with more guidance, making it easier for your agents, for the people taking action, to manage their tasks and provide better service. And of course, EC Pro is going to show you those tasks in that portal when you log in. Automation and AI, obviously eliminating those manual steps, the inconsistency, increasing that efficiency, reducing errors. Those are some of the most important value drivers for any shared services organization, right? Because you have to be able to prove why you're worth the time and the money and the energy to that company. And this is a great way of doing that. ServiceNow is going to provide you with 200 out-of-the-box connections to exterior systems. And that type of integration goes back to what we saw in the previous slide. It's going to connect that data, those documents and those systems to ServiceNow, bubbling that up into Employee Center Pro, ensuring that seamless operation and that data flow across the organization. So no matter where I'm located geographically in your organization or what department I'm in, I'm going to see what's relevant to me, standardize in a consistent experience and process across the entire organization. Because you can have all the data in the world, but if you're not able to digest it and understand it, what good is it? If that data is spread across 5 different systems and it's not intelligently consolidated, there's not much use there. And finally, analytics, machine learning, process mining, all of these capabilities help you organize and optimize your operations to improve that overall performance by helping you identify those cross-enterprise inefficiencies. And we think back to the previous slide, being able to identify where we can make a process better and then rapidly fix that process. How do we do this? Well, Employee Center Pro, that's what we're going to be talking about today. This capability is going to provide that enterprise-wide employee experience platform, which is obviously critical for shared service organizations, regardless of where you are on that maturity level. App Engine, as a former Creator Workflows solution consultant, I love App Engine. I love Creator Workflows, Flow Designer. I taught classes on Flow Designer at Knowledge. This is the tool that lets you facilitate that innovation and that collaboration, whether or not it's a pro coder or a line of business user. You don't need to worry because there's incredibly robust governance capabilities to ensure that the innovations that you're identifying are monitored and appropriately staffed and then deployed. Automation Engine, that's those integrations I was speaking about, combined with Process Mining, deliver that data aggregation and that consolidation with the insights into your processes. So we're not just going to show you the data. We're going to tell you a little bit about it. We're going to provide some recommendations too. And then finally, we come to strategic portfolio management. And that's the capability that is really essential in understanding the state of your organization, the projects within your organization, the workforce at your disposal for those project assignments, the value that those assignments and those projects are delivering, how you're aligning those projects to the overall value that the enterprise is looking to identify, and then, of course, figuring out the return on that investment. Now, alone, each one of those is incredibly powerful. But like Voltron, I'm old, like Voltron, when you combine them together and when you utilize Employee Center Pro to provide that beautiful front door, you really create that system of engagement that's going to unleash the potential of your employees. Before we move to EC Pro, Pooja, are there any questions in the chat that we'd like to address?
Not at the moment. I think everybody is fairly new to GBS and is absorbing.
Oh, and I'm just doing a phenomenal job. I know that's what you meant to say,
Yes.
Pooja. Excellent. Thank you so much for that. I will display the QR code for the tip at the end. You know, when I'll do that little turn around the screen and be like, it wants to ask you some questions, and you're like, oh, okay, avoid eye contact. Anyway, so what you see on your screen right now is just a few of the benefits of having that employee experience platform for GBS. Now, we don't have the time today to go through how GBS is going to be impacted by every single one of these, but you'll see the themes and you'll see some of the specifics as we move through this. And of course, you can follow up with your account reps and your own solution consultants in Pooja for more information. Okay, let's jump into it. So providing that directed content specific to the roles, the personas, the country, and the language that your users are using, that's truly enabled with Employee Center Pro, and within that global business service organization is crucial. And that's for several reasons. And let's identify those right now. And of course, just a reminder, as I say GBS, once again, you could be rocking some enterprise service management. You could be just starting with shared services. Maybe you're brand new to the platform, like I was 9 years ago when I was first asked to be a sysadmin of ServiceNow. And my question was, what's ServiceNow? The point is, you can still experience these benefits no matter where you are in your journey. That enhanced user experience is going to provide that tailored content to ensure that your employees receive the relevant information that's going to make their interactions more efficient and more satisfying. The increased engagement. Engagement is a very hot topic for me because that engagement is enabled through personalized content, which is going to resonate more with your users. And that's going to lead to a higher engagement, better utilization of both your platform and your employees. There's a little so what box down at the bottom. So a positive workplace experience results in greater workforce engagement. According to Gallup, highly engaged business units realize an 81% reduction in absenteeism and a 17% increase in productivity. I'll take that a step further. The World Economic Forum identified engagement, employee engagement, as one of the top 3 reasons an employee chooses to stay or leave a company. Along with engagement, we also have improved productivity by delivering role-specific information that you've standardized across your company. Employees can quickly access the resources they need, reducing the time they spend searching for information. And we're going to show that today in one of the demos with AI search. The cultural relevance cannot be understated. Providing content in the local language and considering the cultural nuances, that helps in better communication and better understanding, and it fosters a more inclusive work environment. If I'm working in Mexico, I'm going to want to see content that's specific to my location in Mexico, while still adhering to the overall shared services or the overall global business services standards and best practices. And that kind of leads into compliance and localization, because we need to make sure that that local content is compliant with local regulations and practices, which are going to help in maintaining the stuff that we hate talking about, the legal and the operational standards across the different regions. You can still have regional variations within a shared services organization. You don't need to have the exact same process across every area of the company. For example, in India, you need to provide 90 days notice before you can leave a company. In the US, we have no such regulation. I could just tell Pooja, hey, you know what? Thanks for the fish. I'm out. But within a global business services organization, we need to take into account that localization. And then, of course, the consistent messaging across the organization, directed content, helping to maintain that messaging and allowing, once again, for that local content, ensuring that everyone's aligned with the global goals and policies. Standardization, consolidating processes and technologies onto a single platform with Employee Center Pro is also going to increase that consistency and that quality control. Standardized processes, that's going to ensure that tasks are performed uniformly across your organization, regardless of what region they're in. We keep saying that, but that's so important that every part of your organization does certain processes the same way so that you get those predictable, high quality outcomes, leading to that improved efficiency and productivity. Your average employee flips between 35 critical systems 1,100 times a day and then make 900 keyboard errors. If we're providing all this information in one place and we're following these standardized global processes, think about how you decrease the number of systems that your employee has to try to weed through just to find what they're looking to find. We were able to enhance training and onboarding. Pooja's going to talk a little bit about onboarding today. Oh my gosh, the onboarding process is one of those processes that can be so disjointed across an organization, depending on where you're hired into, who your manager is, who you might know in HR or procurement, who's your uncle, what have you. I was so impressed when I was onboarded with ServiceNow. And this is one of those good experiences that because I'm a geek, I told all my friends and family about how amazing my onboarding experience was. And they were like, thanks, Scott. This is Thanksgiving. We don't care. But with the ServiceNow onboarding, I had one system I went to for everything. I was able to keep up with where my resume and where my application process was. I was able to have my computer delivered to me 3 days before my start date in Portland, which doesn't even have an office. I logged in and all my access was granted immediately. I had everything I needed. All of my supplies were there. Everything was done. I watched my wife go through an onboarding process as a nurse, and that poor woman, oh, she had to log into 7 different systems to complete an onboarding process, and some of which she couldn't even do until weeks after she started. That's so much downtime. And in doing so, we're reducing those operational costs to the business. We're bringing in better data integration and accuracy because we've standardized this and we're displaying the same relevant information. And we're becoming more scalable and more flexible along the way. Now, as we think back to those 4 key themes of GBS, oopsies, there we go. One of them was data visibility and analytics. Hold on a second. Why is this pause? Sorry, friends, I don't know why it continues to want to go forward. Technology is not my friend right now. Okay, well, thinking back to the 4 key themes, we talked about data visibility and analysis. And the challenge there with all those other dozens of different systems is that now multiply that by the number of departments which are doing their own thing that you don't even know about. Some of the benefits here are that unified access, that improved productivity. Let's go ahead and just jump to this because it's not cooperating right now. We talked about those avoidable and those optimized costs before. Well, knowledge and virtual agent, they play such huge roles in this. Rather than just displaying knowledge-based articles and items, our generative AI capabilities are going to generate that answer for the user. We're going to summarize it and show it to them. We're going to involve past tickets, current changes, system messages, logs, relevant knowledge-based articles, all of that presented in that Employee Center Pro. And with AI Search Assist, we provide that responsible AI generated summary within this genius result. And then, of course, we have universal request. Universal request is the ability to, when you can't find exactly what you need, let's go ahead and create a universal ticket that can be triaged by a shared services help desk group to identify where it should actually go. While we want to enable self-service, we don't want the employees and the users banging their head on the desk for 4 hours. If they can't find it, let's open that universal request. And now what that universal request also gives us is the ability to look and see how many common types of universal requests are being opened. And that helps us with the continuous improvement of identifying new services and knowledge base articles we might need to incorporate into our shared services organization. And all of this is going to align to those business capabilities that you're looking for in your organization. And of course, all the use cases that come with it. Within an organization, we talk about delivery tiers. We start with tier 1, where you call into the help desk and they're kind of generalists. They might pass you on to tier 2 for a more specific specialist. And then finally, if they can't help, now you're going to those real wonks that know the process inside and out. That's a lot of touch points to eventually get to the answer. Well, if we're able to enable self-service from Employee Center Pro, we cut through so much of that. With the introduction of tier 0 and tier 0.5, we reduce that load on the generalists significantly. And that's going to create a bunch of avoidable costs, and it's going to optimize what your business is paying for. Because we have employees resolving 80% of their issues, getting 80% of their knowledge on their own. So now you don't need to have as many generalists staffing the phones. They can focus on becoming specialists, and they can hone their skills to tackle those bigger problems. And of course, all of this is delivering these results at scale. Here are just a few of the wins and success stories that we've seen with our partners, with the customers that we work with. One of my favorite is that General Mills, for example, 70% of the cases are resolved before it gets to an agent. Siemens, a workforce of 380,000 employees are onboarded and transferred within 2 days, utilizing EC Pro, Global Business Services, and all the benefits that you see here when we have GBS and shared services on ServiceNow and utilizing Employee Center Pro. We get that digital customer engagement. We get that digital workforce, the service optimization. Your whole ecosystem is now digital. You're not manual anymore. We're not passing around spreadsheets or sending interoffice mail. We have analytics that are driving business insight and presenting it to you in a way that you can actually use. And all of these grow with every release as we build on this innovation. Before I jump into how we use it ourselves, and then to Pooja, are there any questions right now we need to take a look at?
There's one person who is asking if we could view the slide just before the benefit slide.
Which slide was, this slide here, the deliver
Yes.
enterprise results at scale? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's take a look at the Swiss Re, lower right-hand corner, 30% increase in NPS. Another one of those soft savings that you're getting, PepsiCo. PepsiCo created their unified portal for IT and GBS in 2 days. That's how quickly you can get EC Pro spun up and start publishing these standardized services on it. And of course, we have many more on the ServiceNow website, and we can also provide additional use cases and win stories. Awesome. Well, let me jump in, and is there a way for me to change what screen I'm sharing? I don't think so. Nope, there's not. Okay, so I'm going to stop share, and then I'm going to share again and flip over to my browser. Here it is. Okay, so hopefully right now you can see my browser.
Yes.
Excellent. All right. So, hey, guess what I'm going to ask? I'm going to ask, what is our tuition reimbursement policy? Because you know what? I don't feel like diving through hundreds of knowledge base articles. I certainly don't want to call HR because I can never get through to them. If I submit a request, I mean, my stepdaughter's asking me about this right now because she just joined ServiceNow and she wants to know, hey, can I go back for my master's? And let me go ahead and add this in here. What's our tuition reimbursement policy? And right here, we can see that that this is our own. This is the EC Pro. This is my own portal that I log into with ServiceNow. I'm able to see our tuition reimbursement policy summarized in a bulleted list because I love lists and I don't have to drill through all those different knowledge base articles. I can provide feedback to let my team know if this was helpful or correct. It's also going to provide me some additional search results. And let me go ahead and ask a question to my virtual agent down here as well. Maybe I want to update my preferred name. I have a good friend of mine who just started, and her first name is Christine and she goes by Chrissy. Well, when they set her up in the system, they set her up as Christine. So she had to go through this exact process. I want to update my preferred name. Well, by utilizing EC Pro, we're now going to have the ability to have me self-service, because virtual agent is going to go, it's going to look at the services that I have available within my catalog, and it's going to find the service request. It's going to find that service, and it's going to walk me through answering all the questions I need to answer in order to make this happen. I don't have to call the help desk. I don't have to call HR or payroll. And the nice thing is that this is going to adhere to the standardizations that I've established in my shared services program. So as an agent, your agents know I'm getting the same data each time this is being submitted to me, depending on who the user is, their role. All of that information is going to be personalized. The data is going to be consistent, so they don't have to worry about, did this person type a number into a text field? Did they type a text into a number field? Did they answer A on a true and false? Everything here is standardized to keep that data integrity. Pooja, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you jump into a little bit more of a demo. I'll be here for questions afterwards, and I'm looking forward to seeing everything that we do here. And feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I have about 4 more demos out there on LinkedIn, all around GBS and ServiceNow. Love for you to take a look.
Thanks, Scott. While I'm starting to share, there is a question which I think is a really good question. It says, how mature should the organization be with ServiceNow to leverage GBS? For example, the organization is just starting to implement employee onboarding. Is that good enough? Do you want to comment on that?
Absolutely. Within GBS, you can look at GBS as we're thinking about what capabilities are we going to need within our organization to actually take advantage of ServiceNow to a fullest extent. The following way: you're going to have your foundational shared services capabilities. Those, regardless of the size of your company or the maturity of your company, you can set up and you can start organizing and figuring out how you're going to run that process. That's going to be your EC Pro. That's going to be your integrations to exterior systems with automation engine and process mining. That's going to be your strategic portfolio management for a way to input new ideas and new improvements. That's going to be your low-code development tools, so that as you're building that onboarding process, you're able to make those regional variations in that process, and you're able to do it safely. So you could be just starting with ServiceNow. I have customers that have just spun up ServiceNow and they're already starting GBS because they recognize that by starting it right away, just like learning a second language when you're a kid, there are some ways where that becomes much, much easier. So yes, you can be at any maturity level to take advantage of the standardization, the digital capabilities, that employee experience, and different pieces of your process can be at different maturity levels as well. You might have the first 10 steps digitized, but you know what? That one system is still there. It's still stuck there. We can't get rid of it. That's fine. Let's go ahead. We can have one little piece in there that's not quite optimized yet, and then we can move on and get back into that optimized performance while recognizing we need to work on that one piece. So phenomenal question, and you can be at any level of maturity.
Another question, which I think we can just look into before we jump in. What's the main differentiator between GBS and IBS? Is it about tools or processes?
You know what? At this point, I'm going to say both. And here's why. So it's about tools in the way that you have now truly automated and made intelligent utilizing machine learning and predictive analytics. You have created that fully functioning, well-greased machine of automation that is doing so much for you using AI, machine learning, predictive intelligence, agentic AI coming up. You could have all that. And if you're still immature in your processes, you don't have the governance that's going to look out for changes in the processes that need to be discussed across that global organization or across the spectrum of those various departments, those various regions. If you don't have that, your organization is going to be successful for about a day before other little niches within your company start going off and doing black ops when it comes to their own shadow IT initiatives or shadow processing initiatives. So the process and the technology need to be hand in hand, or the process and the change management side slightly ahead of the technology. That was a great question as well. Two really great questions.
Thanks, Scott. And all right, so now we will discuss how all of this that Scott has been explaining comes together with Employee Center. In fact, I want to just take one step forward and say, if you are already on Employee Center Pro, you have some of the biggest huddles that people have in GBS, which is, actually having all the teams work together to come on a unified experience solved. So if you already are on a unified experience for your organization, you definitely are a lot of steps closer to moving into a GBS model than any other organization. So first and foremost, one of the things that I want to talk about with Employee Center Pro is that it's designed to allow you to be on a unified experience, yet give you the flexibility of having the localization that is needed for your organization. So if you think about these banners that you see on top, by the way, this is a Xanadu instance. It is fairly out of box with a couple of custom widgets like the stock ticker over here. But this is what Employee Center Pro looks like when it is fully built out of box. So yeah, so these banners that you see on top can be actually local or like targeted to an individual. Makes the whole look and feel for this whole portal different for different users. The topic pages. Now, as you can see, we have all put it together under Help Center. We're not saying HR for Europe versus HR for India versus HR for US. It's basically human services or employee services, whatever you want to call it. And there is a single page that basically provides all the content that one would need to know for that particular topic. And the best part is everything that you see here, from communications on top to this rich content, tailored to the person or the location that the person is from. And the content is, again, what is relevant for that person. So let's say you have a different process for India versus that for US, you would see the right content as per the user. So if you are on Employee Center Pro, you are already solving for being on a unified experience. The second part is governance. Because you're on a unified experience, you already have departments that are not accustomed to working together in past, trying to collaborate because they now need to actually have all their content represented on a single page. So they need to work together to make sure they are all surfacing content in the same way. They are looking into how to populate this page in the same way. So once you are on a unified portal, you are again a step forward in terms of driving collaboration between these siloed groups that are very common in large organizations that have not started looking into shared services or a GBS model. So again, a step forward. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is tasking. Most of there are multiple aspects of tasking. You need to have, if there are tasks coming from different systems, like for example, a task from Concur, a task from Workday, a task from Jira, you kind of have to work into multiple systems, but it is also tasks from different departments that are often siloed and, as managers, we have to go into multiple places. um, Employee Center actually unifies all of these tasking. So in one place, you can see your HR task, you can see your learning task, you can see your surveys, you can see your purchases, everything together, reservations that you have made. This again brings that whole front end for GBS come to life from an employee perspective. This is all pre-configured with Employee Center Pro. The other thing, Scott was talking about um, the the search experience. Let me also show you, if I can type today. With Now Assist and our AI search capabilities, you are now searching across different content that sits across different departments. There is some latency in my instance because this is a demo instance, but as you can see, Now Assist will give you the answer without having to click into multiple different links to get to the answer. Now, let's assume you didn't get what you wanted, and this is not sufficient. You're not looking for an inquiry. You probably have a question on why it is not XYZ, or I saw that it was XYZ last year. Has it changed? Something like that. And or you want to ask about something. Yes, you've changed your mind. There is this thing at the bottom which actually opens a universal request. So you probably heard Scott talk about universal request. This is the front end of it. You essentially, you have to do as a user is summarize your issue, tell what needs to be known. I indicate if it's a sensitive issue, like, if you're logging an HR related request or employee relations related request, or including things like personal data that you would want to keep secure, you indicate that early. And this will kickstart the backend process where I, as an employee, doesn't need to know who is fulfilling my request. Is it IT, HR, workplace, any other department? Um, and I get a universal request. Maybe the request needs collaboration between multiple different departments. The task associated with the request will seamlessly transfer to the other departments. And me as an employee would not have to create multiple tickets or track different numbers across. So
Pooja, if I can add to this.
absolutely.
So she brought up a really good point that this type of request, you can enter sensitive, confidential information. And to answer the question that everyone's probably thinking, does any Joe Blow get to see, like, I'm asking a question about my taxes or my special health condition I have? No, because when you check that box that says it contains sensitive or confidential information, as these universal requests are routed to that team that is handling the universal requests, maybe that's your shared help desk. That team has people on it that have been that have the role that allows them to see that sensitive and confidential information. That's so important because if you have an MSP who is doing your help desk, maybe that's outsourced, or you have a shared services help desk that you have internally yourself, you want to make sure that you have the appropriate people that can address things like this. The second point I want to make is that universal request is not a replacement for the ticket itself, for the service request itself. The universal request should not be seen as a miscellaneous request. When I was an admin, one of the first things that I created was a miscellaneous request, which in my head was going to be for my users to only use if they couldn't find the information they needed after searching for the information. Well, guess what? They used it immediately. It was like, hey, I got a button here that I can just click on and type in stuff and not have to look for it or ask the question. That's where they went to. So when you set up universal request, have it so that it is seen as that last option, if you will, because you want to keep that team that is handling these universal requests at a manageable number. And if you are having all of these universal requests go to that team, you haven't established any kind of efficiency or workforce gain.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. And that's one of the reasons why, if you would see, the universal request appears at the bottom of the search results.
Absolutely. And Sheila asked, hey, in the previous screen, you looked for tuition reimbursement, but here we're doing a universal request. Which is the preferred method? Sheila, you're absolutely right. The preferred method is, help yourself, see if you can find it yourself, enable the employees to find it themselves, and then I'm stuck, I'm lost, I don't know what to do. Here's the life preserver.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. So hopefully that makes sense. We also have like numbers and other things that can be made visible. All right. Now the next concept. Actually, before I go to the next concept, there is someone asking about knowledge base versus knowledge articles. When you are thinking about GBS or even like, shared services, or even if you're not doing that, you're just on Employee Center Pro, the structure here that you see, the taxonomy, is the frame that we want employees to use to find content. The knowledge base, the catalog categories are all backend. That's something that you don't bring out. So whenever you are actually on a article, whether it is from search or it is from the topic pages, you should always only surface the topics, not the knowledge base. And this is an error in this instance. It should always just surface the topics. All right. Now, let's get to the other main concept when it comes to GBS, journeys. Now, journeys are a really nice way to get what may be a process or like a service that may be cutting across multiple different departments. Think onboarding. Scott mentioned that a little bit. If you think of a person who is joining new, that person needs tech, that person needs a laptop, that needs to have a profile created in the organization's database. They probably have some legal documents to sign, NDAs or whatever. They probably need to work with someone from workplace to have a desk assigned. There are so many teams that come together. There's learning teams involved to get the person up to speed with everything about the organization. It can often be a very disjointed process and frustrating for the employees who have joined new. And streamlining this is one of the biggest starting points that you can have for shared services. And in fact, the new hire onboarding is a very commonly first step that we see when it comes to journeys. But also, if you would see um, organizations who are doing GBS, they do. So let's take a look what this looks like.
Pooja, just a
So,
quick time check. I think we got about 2 minutes left.
okay, awesome. So I won't spend too much time on this, but let me see if I can quickly open up. Actually, I think I'm clicking on the wrong thing. Give me a
While
second.
she's doing that, we've had a couple of questions that I'll address. So the first one, what training path would you suggest to manage Employee Center Pro? The ServiceNow training portal has just a ton of really great content out there that has its own learning paths that you can take based on your persona, your role in the organization, the capability you're interested in. Also, our YouTube channels have a wealth of information and examples actually created in front of you. That would be a great place to start. Kelly asked a great question. How do we keep people from just going directly to universal request? By having it at the bottom of that screen, that's one way. Like that, you're not really having the universal request as a separate service catalog item that they can just, bring up. It's usually down there after they've searched for something and they can't find it, or it's part of your virtual agent path where eventually the virtual agent will ask if you wanted to open up a universal request after so many. So the tool itself will help you keep it in a specific place, and then the metrics afterwards would allow you to take that as a change management training issue if it's still continued.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. So, just closing the loop because I'm mindful of the time. I'll take one more minute. Yeah, as you can see, this is the journey that we have put one of the employees for Maria. And this is onboarding. You can see there's sign an IT agreements, generate an NDA, set up your direct deposit, hiring manager checklist. It brings all of the different teams and processes together in one experience. So this is a great example of a business service that one could offer. All right. So just to close, I hope this was really helpful. And we have many of these similar sessions. We have Employee Center Deployment Office Hours coming in soon, and then other office hours and roadmap webinars. So I hope you will find time to connect with us again. And thank you for attending. Our next Academy session will be again the third Wednesday of next month, and it's going to be around designing effective governance. So, a great topic to follow up with GBS.
Love that. Awesome. Well, take care, everybody.
Thank you, Scott, so much for your presentation and engaging with the group here. And thank you,
Thanks for
everyone, for
having me.
joining. Bye bye.